What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan. I did not even have time to put on the whole fit or whatever. I have to make an impromptu video. This is going to be very short, very sweet. What is the CFL thinking? What is the CFL thinking with these new rules that are by and large atrocious? Okay, let's go over the ones that I like. I'm like, best one is the opposite ends. Yeah, okay. Teams being on opposite ends makes sense, looks nice. Be easier for switching in between plays. No complaints, no notes. But everything else is like to active dislike. Moving the goalposts back. I get it. You know, it does open up the end zone. That's nice. And for the people saying, well, hey, I mean, my favorite thing is the missed field goal return. It can still happen. It just would be a short field goal that gets returned for a touchdown. It's still something that can happen. But obviously not in as exciting of a way. I get to avoid injury, though I haven't really seen anybody in the CFL get injured by running into the goalpost. Still, okay, I can kind of understand it. Why do we need to shorten the end zones in the field? Other than to make the sport more akin to the NFL. Why? Is scoring down? Is that why the field needs to be shortened? Scoring is great in the CFL. I can kind of understand wanting all the end zones to be uniform. And look, at least it's 15 yards. Thank God it's not 10. But come on, make it a uniform 20. Make it a uniform 20. And don't give me this, oh, well, then, you know, they'd have to change so many fields. No, you wouldn't. You're already making it 100 yards. So shouldn't you double down and say, well, now you'll have the space in Percival Molson? Because you're going to lose 10 yards of field that you can now put towards your end zone. So if you play in a place that doesn't have the space, well, yes, you do. Because you shortened the field and the end zone. And the end zone. Why? Why would you do that for any reason other than you want it to look like the NFL? The Buffalo Bills have a deal with MLSE, and they want the NFL to be more like the CFL. Well, they want the CFL to be more like the NFL, really. They want the CFL to be similar. Like, I'm trying not to be pessimistic. What good does shortening the field really do? What good? That's one of the quintessential parts of Canadian football. The only way this could be a bigger slap in the face is if they made it 4-down football. I love the NFL. I watch the NFL. Big Niners fan. And guess what? When I want to watch the NFL, I will watch the NFL. And when I want to watch the CFL, well, then I guess I'm going to have to go on YouTube and look up past seasons. The Rouge, don't even get me started. Okay, I am sick and tired of, well, I hate to reward failure. A missed field goal and you get a point? But that's rewarding failure. The reward is for field position because, I don't know, we shouldn't reward defensive failure. Okay, yes, one team's kicker failed. That's why he doesn't get the whole 3 points. He only gets one. Because if you are close enough to kick the ball out the back of a team's end zone, then that means that defensively, they probably didn't do too well and should be therefore punished. They shouldn't be given a get-out-of-jail-free card because of the 12 people between offense and special teams that will take the field in a field goal try, right? The offense is throwing the ball, they get down to the opponent's 20 or 30, right? Nice, clean, easy chip shot attempt. The hold is good. The snap is good. The ball does not get blocked. It's just one guy, the kicker, just messes up. Well, for the other 23, they succeeded. And also, there was a whole defense that let a team get into that position. There was a special teams that didn't block the field goal, that couldn't break through, bad snaps, and it might not even get to the end zone. Okay? A block, it's not going to get to the end zone. So, no, it's not rewarding failure. You know, they were talking about that play between Toronto and Edmonton. And Toronto misses the field goal but wins the game because it's a last second, field goal attempt. And it goes wide off the back of the end zone. Game over, right? Oh, so many people online were complaining about that. So many people were complaining. But Edmonton should have lost that game because, again, in a tied game, they allowed their opponents to get into relatively decent field goal range. I'm sorry for not feeling bad that you lost because your defense sold. So now you are rewarding a different kind of failure. Your defense can completely collapse in on itself, get pummeled, and just barely force a field goal attempt by the skin of their teeth. A field goal attempt that is a chip shot. It's like a, 25-yard attempt. This is nothing, super easy, and the kicker just shanks it. Wide left, and it's a 25-yard attempt. They're going to kick at least 35 yards. Wide left, out the back of the end zone. Your defense gets rewarded for failure. They get bailed out. Despite doing terribly, nothing bad happens to the team. You're fine. So yeah, I do think that they're rewarding failure. Whereas the opposite is true. If you're on defense in a tie game, you know that if they just get into relative field goal range, you're done. You need to make a stop. But no. And I hate to be a pessimist, but I feel like it's because NFL fans complained online. They see those clips and they don't like it. They aren't watching. And also, those clips garner attention. There are some people that are like, oh, that's new and strange and different and interesting, and maybe it's not for them, but they're at least talking about it. No more walk-off rouge for you to talk about. They were like, oh, it'd be awful if the Grey Cup was decided on a missed field goal. Are you kidding me? That'd be in the news cycle for a week. Every single NFL fan would be talking about that, would be debating on if that's a good rule or a bad rule. There would be people that would say, oh my God, you missed a field goal and got a point to win the championship. That's awful. And then there'd be others, well, maybe if you weren't in that situation, maybe if you weren't in a situation where you could lose the championship on a field goal, it wouldn't have happened. And it would have generated energy and conversation and momentum. But no, don't need that. Why need that? When we could just have a shorter field, put the goalposts at the back of the end zone, get rid of the rouge half the time. Yes, the rouge still exists, barely, but hey, at least it's there. I guess we should be thankful. Oh, and we've still got 3 downs and 12 men on the field. Thank goodness for that. Though, when asked if there are any sacred rules, the answer was not a yes. A very clear, well, it's 3-down football here in Canada. So who knows? Maybe by 2030, we'll just get to compete for the Super Bowl. And that is the alarmist part of me. Now, I do want to bring the heat down a little bit because there is something good to be said about all this, which is this panic's happened before. Because how are you going to implement the forward pass? That's such an American thing to do. That's in the NFL. That's part of the American game. That's a big reason why we have a lot of American players in the CFL. Before, there were not a lot. Look, I'm wearing this hat for a reason. Because I actually read up on the history of the CFL. That was controversial, that we were going to take that Americanism. The forward pass. And then we had rules with the forward pass. Well, at least, if you attempted a forward pass and you missed, it wasn't just, okay, second down. No, the ball was live. Or better yet, the ball was just automatically given to the other team. If you missed in the red zone, if you, threw the ball incomplete in the red zone, automatically other team gets the ball. Just automatically at their 25, they have gotten away with one. So not a lot of passing. Very different from the American game, which, yeah, we have American passing rules now, effectively. Like, not exact, but pretty similar. Touchdown's worth 5 points. In the CFL, here in Canada, a touchdown is worth 5 points. 6 points? 6 points for a touchdown? 7 for the touchdown and point after attempt? No, that's an Americanism. That is something that we adopted from the American game. So, yes, I'm concerned. But we've been through this before. And I think nowadays, if you were to ask any CFL fan if they want to get rid of the forward pass or make touchdowns 5 points instead of 6, they'd look at you like you're from another planet. And they'd say no. Above all else, what makes this league is the people, the fans, the fan bases. It is unique in its own right. The spirit of the CFL will never die if we don't let it. We can let that carry on. And we can adopt as many American rules as we want, or as little. I like the CFL the way it is. Except for a few things. There were some announcements that I wish had been announced. If we were getting the announcement that, every review we're going to hear the command center, we're actually going to hear the conversation so that we, the audience, know why the decision was made one way or the other, that would have been a real welcome change, you know? I don't like the play clock change, but it's not the end of the world because it's still 3-down football. It's still 3-down football. So yeah, if you have the ball with 2 minutes left, you can't just take a knee like you can in the NFL because you don't have enough downs to do that. You still can give your team a freebie if you just take a knee 3 times in a row. Now they get the ball. So we still have that. Even though I don't love that change, it's not the end of the world. You know, it's a 35-second automatic from down to next play. That, you know, I don't think that that's such a bad idea. You know, don't think it's such a great idea, but I don't think it's terrible. But the CFL and Canadian football as a whole has been through a million changes. The CFL is a merger of 2 leagues that played with completely different rules for a while. Yeah, the West and the East just had different rule sets. Sometimes teams couldn't compete for the Grey Cup because of that. There used to be like 5 different leagues that were competing for the Grey Cup in some capacity. All with variations. Canadian football has survived 2 world wars. A pandemic. Really, it survived 2 pandemics. It survived worse. And if I were to show you one of those games, one of the early Ottawa Rough Riders game, if I were to show you not the 2025 Ottawa Red Black season, but the 1925 Ottawa Rough Riders Grey Cup Championship game. If I had a time machine and I brought you to watch that game, you wouldn't be watching CFL football. It's a completely different sport with how different the rules are, and yet it's the same. And yet that is just as much a Grey Cup Championship for us as 2016. Yet that is just as much a Canadian football season as 2025. And I can tell you, 21-25, it's going to look a whole lot like another sport entirely. It's going to be weird. It's going to be different. There's going to be some things that are more American and some things that we didn't realize were such a huge difference that are going to be starting to make huge differences. And that's okay. It's also going to be, the NFL is going to change their rules eventually. They aren't going to have the same rule book forever and ever and ever till the end of time. And we aren't always going to follow. Maybe the NFL will say, actually, no, we want 110 yards on a football field, and we will be the ones that'll say, nope, 100 yards. Not likely, but it could happen. So I also want you to know, look, this isn't great. I'm not happy. You're not happy. But I don't think the reason I love the CFL is because of where the goalposts are, or the size of the field, or how big the end zones are. Those things definitely help. But for me, and it might not be the same for you, and that's okay. Maybe one of those reasons is a deal breaker for you. But for me, it's the atmosphere, the environment, the Friday nights in freezing cold, down by 2, no time left, field goal to win it. It's the 2nd and 25 deep in your own territory in the East Final, turning into the Miracle on Bank Street. It's celebrating after finally winning the Grey Cup and crying after you lose. It's being annoyed every time you hear the Oski Wee Wee chant, or rolling your eyes at somebody who puts a watermelon on their head. It's chopping a log with a chainsaw because your team scored a touchdown. It's saying Toronto has no fans. That's what the CFL is about. It's about us, okay? It's about us. And that's the last thing. It's okay if we hate it. It's not 2027. Planned ain't happening. They plan. Don't mean it's going to happen. We can be vocal. We can protest. Look, every time Gary Bettman hands out the Stanley Cup, he gets a chorus of boos. Most commissioners do. CFL, not that bad. Maybe that'll be different this year. Maybe that'll be different next year, and maybe that will do enough to at least have some people reconsider on if this is what fans want. Maybe if we send messages, call your season ticket provider if you have them. Or if you don't have season tickets, contact somebody in the league and say, hey, look, I love this league. I don't love these changes. It's not a done deal. And again, even if it is, it won't make the Grey Cup any less magical. It won't make going for it on 3rd down any less stressful. It will be a new normal that will be shocking and feel weird and feel wrong. And it will take some getting used to. And then we will find a new normal. I'm still going to be here. I'm always going to be here. And as always, go Ottawa, go.